this episode if you want the inside scoop of how one of my clients grew their product-based business to $250,000 a year using social media. I know you guys are always looking for context, you're always looking for success stories, and you're always looking for kind of the raw and real of the how-to that these people actually did this. And so I'm going to deliver that and give you some real life examples of how this client did this. Now, a lot of times when I talk about actual income levels or I talk about any kind of sales, everything is anonymous. So I'm not going to tell you which brand this is, but she basically is an apparel company to a very specific audience. She has basically differentiated herself to a community that was already, there's already communities out there for this type of person. And she built an apparel company with clothing that related to that type of person, just as if she was making an apparel company for nurses or Christian women or something like that. It was something along those same kind of coin there. Her average order value was $62. Her average product cost was $35, and her audience size on Instagram right now is 42,000. Now, before you're like, all right, Maddie, I have 1,500 followers. I really want to dive into how she grew to this size so we can really look at the nitty-gritty numbers of what had happened. She started at 1,500 followers and she's here. And honestly, it took her about 3 to 4 years to really grow to this point. And so I really want to talk about the things that she changed, things that we worked on, and the things that she had nailed down in order to make this happen. The first thing that I really want to say is that this is a possibility for everybody on social media. I know so many people are like, oh, that'll never happen to me, or, oh man, if I just had 42,000 followers, I would be able to do that too. When I work with these business owners that are making $100,000, $250,000, $500,000 a year in their product-based business, there are a couple of consistencies that I see really often. And one of the major things is that nothing is random. They really are strategized. They really are strategic in what they're doing and why they're doing it and how they're doing it. It's not something that they're just winging. That is one of the major pieces there. And all of them say nothing is random. They know that they have to do these certain things in order to make it happen. And they're structured with it. They're organized and they're strategized. They understand what has to be done in order to get what result. That can happen for you too. I have so many clients that come into me and they're like, well, Maddie, I'm kind of just winging it, but I'm not seeing any results. And when we start to put this structure, we put this strategy behind it, you can make more money right now with the audience that you have if you added that structure and that strategy. So we're going to dive into what this client really has, what she did, what she nailed down, and what all of this really looks like here. Again, apparel company, average order value is $62 and her audience size is 42,000. So if you start looking at this, number one is her aesthetics were immaculate. Her aesthetics crushed it for her audience. Her aesthetics called in her audience already. Now, her audience is a visual person, so they do really like the visual sides of things. They are a creative soul, and so that definitely does help. However, even with my clients that have an ideal customer that might not be specifically creative or artistic, having aesthetics and having an actual brand image around your brand always helps. It can never actually hurt. And the clients that I see that nail down the branding and the creation side of their brand, of actually having the product photos, having the videos that really look beautiful, definitely it is a major benefit. 90% of people are visual. Does that mean your house has to be beautiful? Does that mean that your house has to be totally clean? No. A lot of the photographers, the videographers that I talk to, they say, I always shoot my photos and my videos in a 6x4 foot card table. They're like, I never actually shoot it in a home or any of that. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. You can create the scene that you're looking for if you have the right technology. You can literally do it with an iPhone. So it doesn't have to be anything that's that inaccessible for people. You just have to take the time to really understand or hire a product photographer of some kind. But this client came in to me with really incredible branding. She understood the assignment when it came to creating a brand image. The next one is she knew her brand voice and who she was speaking to really, really well. Again, understanding your brand means you understand who you're speaking to, and that carries into more than just visuals. It does carry into her brand voice. When she wrote an email, it was calling into that person, and it was fun. It had adjectives that made sense, that correlated with her brand image. Her brand image was like kind of organic and very kind of nature driven. And so her audience was also kind of that type of person. And so her brand voice went alongside of it, and it really just called in those right people more. Again, she understood the assignment when it came to branding and foundations of her brand. And honestly, that's something that I see with clients that have really good results and really are making those high cash months, high cash years, really understand the foundations of their brand first. That's why in my Product to Profit program, that helps you grow into getting consistent sales online, I teach you those things first. We make sure week 1 that you have those things solid, because it's necessary. You need those foundational elements in order to be able to build on top of it. Again, with these clients, truly nothing is random. Things are strategic behind what they're doing. The next one is that she had consistent, non-negotiable content schedules, and her content schedule, it wasn't crazy. She posted 3 times a week on her feed. She has grown an audience before. I think she said that she used to post like 4 or 5 times a week on her feed, but it was consistent every single week. She wasn't going in, she wasn't going out, she wasn't, being consistent for 3 weeks and then taking a couple of weeks off. She posted 3 times a week, every week, no matter what. If she was launching, if she was, in the middle of a sale, if she was nurturing, if she was growing, maybe she would post a couple more times, but it was very consistent. And she didn't just post about her product. She added depth and she added meaning behind her brand, calling in those right people. So it had some depth. It had a variety of topics behind it. She spoke more about the meaning, the aesthetics, and remember saying she had that community at the core. She really created more content for that overall community than she did just like, look at my product and go and buy it. And oh my gosh, look at how cute this is, go and buy it. Product information is necessary, but you have to build a meaning, a purpose, and value outside of just the actual product features itself. The next one is she understood the sales process and where her marketing channels fit into that sales process. She was growing, she was nurturing, and she was selling in different areas. She was on Instagram, she was on TikTok, and she was on email. She was on her email list. She had different parts of the sales process for different types of content and for different phases in the buying cycle. Again, nothing was random. She knew what she was doing and where she was trying to do it. The next step is that she had systems in place to convert people from followers into customers. This is something that you hear me say a lot, is that yes, you can actively sell to people in your content where you are actively pushing certain products, you're actively launching something, you're actively talking about certain products. That is actively selling, but we need to have systems in place where you are passively selling without you needing to post. Otherwise, you are so strapped to social media. If you need to be able to take a step back from, pushing content. You need to take a step back from just like actively needing to move people through and basically manually moving people through the buying cycle by having your profile set up, by having your email set up, by having your website set up, and by having systems in place in order to make people move through that seamless sales system as well. The next one is that she utilized segmented email marketing. This is something that I don't talk about too often, but again, my clients that do see these high cash months is something I talk about with my scaling clients in Product Sales Expansion, which is my signature scaling program to help you kind of reach this level of business and beyond. And really what it comes down to is she understood that she had a couple of different people in her audience. She had people that loved this, people that loved that, and people that loved this other thing. And when they bought certain pieces, she segmented them down. So if they bought, her pajamas this one Christmas versus when they bought her hoodies versus people that bought her graphic tees were kind of different audiences. And so she segmented her audience and sent different emails based on the segmentation because they utilize her products in different ways. And so it actually allowed her to better market to her ideal customer based on the different segments within her audience. And of course, she sent some to her entire list, but it allowed her to have very specific email campaigns that spoke very directly to the needs of her customer. One that I also don't talk about a lot as well is this client did play around with ads during her busy season. She knew that the fall and the winter were her busiest season because people wear hoodies, people wear pajamas, people wear long sleeve shirts a little bit more. And June and July and early spring isn't a great time to sell hoodies and like warmer style clothes online. She knew her busy season was end of summer through the fall, through the winter. And she played around with ads during this season. Now, she had a strategist that helped her with this, but she really did play with ads during this season. And she wasn't pouring a ton of money into it, but it was something that she invested in because she could see the return on ad spend. One thing that's nice about ads is when you know your marketing converts people, your website converts people, when people see your product with the proper messaging, they convert. Your ads, you basically can see a return on ad spend that says if you spend $1, you're going to make $6 back in revenue, which means if you spend, $2, you're on average going to make $12. So it kind of allows you to keep pouring more money into it to allow more money to come out of it. Now, I'm not somebody that recommends pouring money into ads until you have proven that your marketing and your website do convert with the audience you are trying to build. So I want you to get to kind of consistent online sales first, or at least understand a sales strategy and get proof of concept behind that sales strategy, and then you can play with ads. But this is something that this client did to propel her business, and it did help her grow her audience to more people that were very specific as well. Something else was that she wasn't afraid to hire people. I know that it can be really scary in your business, and this might be talking to people that are making, 50, 60, 70, 100, $150,000 in your business. But if you are resistant to hiring people because either your perfectionism or you feel like you can do it best, when you are not resistant to hiring people, that means that your own time is freer to actually work on growing the business. This client was able to grow her business behind the scenes so much because she freed up her time. She was no longer personally screen printing her products. She was no longer personally packaging up her products. She was no longer personally doing the working in her business things that was taking 60% of her time. So she never had time to create content. She never had time to, she really loved the designing of the actual products, but because she wasn't afraid to hire, she freed up her time of doing some of the things that didn't require her brain. So she had more time to actually working on her business. You have to, as a business owner, no matter the size of your business, understand the difference between working on and working in your business, and you have to make time for the working on. And if you can't make time for it, we have to find a way for that to happen, because that is where the business growth happens. Yes, you need to work in, yes, it happens, but we do need to work on our business in order to see the growth. Last but not least is they understand their numbers. They look at their numbers, they look at their costs, they look at their profit margins, they look at, how long it takes them to create their products. They really understand their numbers. They also are looking at their website numbers, and they have a lot of that really solidified at the core of who their business is. And so looking at all of these things, again, it just goes back to that main thing, that main message of this whole episode is that nothing is random to the clients that are making multi-six figures in their product-based business. They've gotten here because they've really understood the strategy, they knew their foundations, and they basically built this dang thing brick by brick. This client, what we really worked on was honing in the behind the scenes, hiring some extra people, simplifying what her business looked like, and really allow for her to get to this point. When this client started working with me, she started in PTP a few years ago. And how I know that she built this business brick by brick was because I was with her through understanding the foundations of her brand. She came to me knowing her branding, knowing her visuals, knowing she's very creative at her core. core, and she had the visuals really down. She understood the vibes. She understood the assignment when it came to branding. And then we just added some of that content onto it. And what she did is she stayed so consistent with it. She built her content. She built her strategy. She really stepped up in staying consistent with everything. She went all in on her business. She did the 7 types of content. She built that ride or die community, and she really understood the process. She did a lot of learning on her own of really understanding the numbers, really understanding how her business and how her community really buys. She did a lot of market research, and really at the core is she didn't wing it. She was organized, she was strategic, and she really stayed committed to the strategies that she learned inside of PTP. She has now built a business that is thriving and absolutely converting so many of her followers into customers. Her primary vehicle for building this business was on social media. And so it's not that she had all of these other things happening. Did she play with ads after she already saw some of those consistent sales? Yes, but you can do that. Once you prove your sales process, or you prove your marketing, you prove your concept, you can pour money into it because you know you'll get money back. At that point, it's just getting in front of the right people. The thing that really makes a major difference for her is that she understood what she needed to do. She had the strategy. She stayed very structured with it. She planned things out, and she really started to see major growth about a year after being consistent with this strategy. It doesn't happen overnight. A lot of times when you see these overnight successes, they've been trying at it for years, for months. It does take something to build it brick by brick, and you have to stay consistent, especially if your major vehicle is through social media. Social media is your baby. It should be like, how can I cherish this vehicle that I have, this medium that I have to build community, create connection with people, and really build this ride or die audience here. Her aesthetics were immaculate. She knew her brand voice and who she was speaking to. She understood a consistent content schedule and stuck with it. She added value and depth and real topics behind her brand because her brand was pretty value focused. It was a lot of what she talked about. She understood that sales process of what content helped people grow, helped people nurture, and helped people sell. She had systems in place to convert people from followers into customers. She knew that she could passively convert people where she didn't have to manually move people through it through organic content all of the time. She utilized segmented email marketing so she could speak to the right people once they were in her audience. She played around with ads around the busy season to kind of propel her from that like $60,000, $100,000 to that $250,000 a year business. And she wasn't afraid to hire people. She wasn't afraid to give things away to other people, so it allowed her to do the things that were in her zone of genius. She really understood her numbers, and she was structured, she was strategized, she was organized, and she planned her things out. And honestly, as I look at this list, it is a lot of the things that I would say the majority of my most successful clients have these things really down pat. Things aren't random. They know their numbers. They are very structured. And of course, I have some clients that are more creative than they are structured, but they still understand the importance behind like the actual strategy and what they are, every single thing that they are putting out there. Now, I don't share this to be like, wow, this client did this wonderful thing. I share this to really give you a map out and some context behind these messages that you see me post all the time, these big wins that you see me post, these client success stories, or just seeing what can happen when you really do go all in on your business. This lady, this wonderful woman, is just like you. She came into me, she was struggling. She was at a couple thousand followers, and we figured out what strategy and really understanding how to add this sales strategy to everything. And then she stayed so incredibly consistent with it, and she stuck with it. She saw the growth starting to happen quickly, and she stayed with it. She kept up with it. She saw the vision. She knew that it was huge, and she grew to this point. Now we are starting to look at some retail opportunities for her. How can we get bigger? How can we get better? And how can she keep growing from here? This is possible for you too. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I love kind of breaking down some of these major pieces, because it's also a reflection for me of like, what are my most successful clients doing? And these really are some of the core points, not just with this wonderful client, but with others as well. It's possible for you. You can do it. You just need the strategy to fix it, or you just need the strategy to make it happen and stay so incredibly consistent with it. I believe in you, and I know you can believe in you as well. If you are interested in the programs that this client joined, she was in Product to Profit first, really understood how to get that seamless sales system built on social media, her foundations, her content, her community, and her passive selling systems. So things kind of worked a lot better for her online. And then we kind of scaled from there. When you are starting trying to get to those consistent monthly sales, that is my signature program called Product to Profit. And then once you're trying to scale from that 50, 60, 70 and beyond kind of range, when you already have those consistent sales flowing, but now you're looking to scale from there, that is my product sales expansion program. So if you have any questions on those, you can reach out to me on Instagram at This Is Madison Page. We will have new cohorts starting in the new year. I hope this was helpful for you to get some context into some of these wins. I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you. I'm rooting for you, and I'm in your corner always.